From NBC News, this is a special edition of Today, the Death of Osama bin Laden, with Matt Lauer and Meredith Vieira.
This morning on Parenting Today, it's Childhood Mental Health Awareness Week. Is your child falling behind in school or maybe having trouble making friends? Well, these may actually be warning signs of something that needs a professional's attention. And here with some advice is Dr. Harold Koplowitz, the president of the Child Mind Institute, and Diane Debrovner, the deputy editor of Parents Magazine, and they're partners in the Speak Up for Kids campaign. Good morning to you two. Nice to have you here.
Good morning.
For such an important cause. And let me tell you why, because if you look at these numbers, more than 15 million children in America have psychiatric disorders. At least half never receive help. 75% of all psychiatric illnesses occur before the age of 24 and 50% before the age of 14. So given these numbers, why aren't we taking our children's mental health more seriously, Dr. Koplowitz?
Well, I really think the big problem is there's still a lot of shame. If you think back 40 or 50 years ago, people used to whisper the word cancer. And today, I think we're doing the same thing when it comes to psychiatric disorders. And unfortunately, left untreated, kids who have psychiatric disorders are more likely to have academic failure, school dropout, substance abuse, and unfortunately, tragic endings. 5,000 teenagers this year will kill themselves, and 600,000 will actually make a serious enough attempt that they will land up in emergency room.
Third leading cause of death under the age of 15, right?
Correct. It's actually 14 to 24. But the more important thing is that more kids have these disorders than all the kids who have AIDS, diabetes, heart disease combined. And yet, we tend to ignore these kids.
And Diane, is the reason we're ignoring it, is it because of that social stigma, as we've talked about, or is there something more sometimes when parents look back at their own history or cases of mental illness in their family that they don't want to own up to that?
I think it's very difficult for parents to know whether their child's behavior is normal or not. I think that they want to believe that if a child is having difficulty, that he's going to grow out of it.
Right.
And I think it's typical for a parent to wait 2 years before taking a child who has a legitimate mental health problem to a mental health professional, and that's unfortunate because those are lost years.
That said, what are some of the symptoms? What are some things that parents should be looking for in their children's behavior?
Well, I think that most parents have to know their kids.
Right.
They have to know how they sleep. What kind of social life do they have? Are they outgoing? Or are they a shy kid? Do they love sports? And when there's a change, when you see that your kid has distress or dysfunction, he doesn't want to go to school, or he can't sit still, or the school is complaining, parents should see this as red flags. If your child had a rash, you wouldn't wait 3 days, 4 days. You would look at it, you'd call the pediatrician. After 2 weeks, if a kid is really looking unhappy or not functioning well, that's the time to call your pediatrician first. Number two, maybe go to see a mental health professional. And we've established the childmind.org website where you can actually go for a symptom checker. Do I really have to worry about my kids?
Diana, I know this is something that the readers of your magazine, I'm sure they talk a lot about this and write a lot about this, is their children's behavior at Parents Magazine. What do they say about what they notice in kids' behavior, and especially with the issues when it deals with bullying nowadays, which we hear so much about? Does some of that play into what could be going on with their mental health?
There are so many reasons for a child to act in a way that seems difficult or unacceptable, and I think that there's a lot of guilt and embarrassment that's tied in with a lot of these issues, that parents are worried that if their child has a problem that people are going to look at them and think that they're a bad parent, and they hesitate to get help because of that. But that's really unfortunate because it's not a parent's fault.
Sudden change too, we can't forget about that. In cases of death or divorce in a family, those things really impact a child's mental health as well. Dr. Koplowitz, so what should you do to get them the help they need?
Again, we're here on a celebration because 9/11 was so many years ago, and we feel in some ways relieved. But after 9/11 or any terrible traumatic event, certain kids are more sensitive, and that's when again you have to be on the lookout, because not to ignore it, these things don't fade. And I think Diane's right. It's not bad parenting that causes psychiatric disorders, but it takes excellent parenting to make it better. That's what parents really have to do.
Good point to end on. Well, Dr. Harold Koplowitz, thank you. Diane Debrovner as well. Thanks so much for coming to us and raising our attention to it. And there's much more information on our website, by the way, on today.com. Coming up next, Jill.